This is a podcast on pension scheme membership. For a transcript, email info@ons.gov.uk. When we refer to pension scheme members, we are talking about people who currently contribute to a pension scheme or have contributions made for them by their employer. These people are also known as active members. The information from this podcast comes from two different surveys. Firstly, from the Family Resources Survey, which is a survey of around 25,000 households in Great Britain, and secondly, from the Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings, which is based on a 1% sample of employees across the UK, with around 181,000 responses in 2010. In the UK, pensions are divided into state pensions and private pensions, which we will now concentrate on. Private pensions are those which are provided by people's employers or by an insurance company, and there are two main types: workplace pensions for employees working in both the public and private sector, and individual personal pensions, including stakeholder pensions, which are provided by insurance companies for people who are self-employed or not working. They may also be taken out by employees in addition to a workplace pension. Within the category of workplace pensions, there are two main types: occupational pensions, which are provided by employers, and group personal pensions, which are organised through the employer but provided by insurance companies. First, we will look at the percentage of men and women aged 16 to 64 who are members of private pension schemes since 1996-97 to 2009-10. Note that the information here is from the Family Resources Survey, and there is no information from 2006-07 to 2008-09, as there were concerns about data quality. Firstly, looking at men, we see the membership has fallen from 54% in 1996-97 to 38% in 2009-10. Now, if we look at membership for women, we can see that it is lower than for men, and also it has remained broadly the same over the period, and in 2009-10 it stood at 34%. Now, we will look specifically at people who work as employees and belong to workplace pension schemes, whereas the previous graph looked at membership of all pension schemes for all adults. The information shown here and in the rest of the podcast comes from the Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings, which only surveys employees. Firstly, looking at those contributing to a workplace pension scheme in the public sector, we can see that a higher percentage of men are contributing to workplace pension schemes than women. We also see a similar pattern in the private sector, but also that membership for both men and women is much lower in the private sector than in the public sector. Membership has been fairly stable in the public sector, with no overall change for men and a slight increase in membership for women over the period. However, there has been a fall in the percentage of employees contributing to a workplace pension scheme in the private sector for both men and women. Men's membership declined from 52% in 1997 to 39% in 2010, and women's membership declined from 37% to 28% over the same period. Now we will look at different types of pension scheme that employees are members of. In the public sector, most employees belong to the kind of pension scheme where benefits are related to salary, such as final salary schemes. Now focusing on the private sector, looking firstly at 1997, using this pie chart, we can see that almost 3/4 of the membership, or 74%, were in occupational schemes known as defined benefit or final salary schemes, with a further 24% in a defined contribution occupational scheme and just 2% in a group personal pension scheme. Now looking at membership, in 2010 we can see that it is divided between various types, with just 32% in a defined benefit occupational scheme, 26% in a defined contributional occupational scheme, 25% in a group personal pension, and 15% in a stakeholder pension. The pension type was unknown for 2% of those surveyed. We will now look at all employees and see how membership varies according to their age. A small percentage of people aged 16 to 21 are members of pension schemes, and we see that membership tends to increase as the age of the employee increases, peaking for those aged 50 to 54. However, at older ages, people are less likely to be contributing to a pension scheme than those in the middle age groups. This may be because some are already retired, or those in work are more likely to be in part-time employment, and part-time employees are less likely to belong to a pension scheme than those working full-time. Finally, we will look at how membership varies according to an individual's weekly earnings, concentrating on full-time employees. For those earning less than £300, up to those earning £600 or more. It shows that the lower people's earnings, the less likely they are to belong to a workplace pension scheme, and the higher people's earnings, the more likely they are to belong to a scheme. The information included in this podcast can be found in Pension Trends Chapter 7, Pension Scheme Membership, available at the link here. The chapter also includes information on employee membership by industry and self-employed membership. For any queries regarding this podcast, please email pensionsanalysis@ons.gov.uk.